where we interview real people telling real truths and stories. The overall objective here is to break the negative narratives that plague our communities and minds. The biggest one we aiming to attack is that there are no more good men and women out here. Stand-up men and women. The men and women we actually need in positions to help change our community for the better.
Oh yeah.
Fire, fire. Look at that.
I'm about to put all my stuff up actually because I don't want it to be on the couch.
Okay.
I don't want this to burn. Okay, I don't think I need anything else from here.
I think you need that sage more than I do right now.
Nah, I really don't. I'm honestly in a really good mood.
Shoot.
But like, I'm for reals. That lady, she needs to get on my level. I'm not getting on her level anymore. I'm not gonna, and that's something I do. I've had issues with friends in the past. Is like, they'll decide not to grow. And then they'll try to be possessive over me, you know?
Thanks.
And that's one of the things that I thought was really weird with this lady was the fact that it felt like she was trying to possess me the way a woman possesses a man. And I hated that. Because like if you wanna try to date me or something, like I literally had a guy who literally texts me and tells me he thinks about me all the time. I literally was like on the phone with him because he asked if I got a boyfriend recently. And I was literally like, you are not allowed to ask that. I was like, I literally don't have time or energy for that. I was like, on top of it, why the fuck would you bring it up when I'm here looking for a collaboration, a professional partnership, like a professional relationship, man? Like, come on. Like, there's just no reason for you to do that. And he'll literally call me at 2 a.m, tell me he misses me. I'm like, that shit weird. I do no longer answer.
I'm so like.
Okay, I no longer answer. The first couple times I was like, what's going on here? You know, because like he's like he has a whole life situation. I don't want to tell. Like.
Because I am rolling.
Yeah, you're recording. So like he has a whole life situation where he was very constricted for the last few years. So I thought like him calling me really late was just like him not realizing what time it was. Only for him to be like, oh, I was just awake and like thinking of you. And I was like, this is some teenage boy bullshit. Like I don't got time for that.
But you got the personality most people want to lock down until they see that side of you.
Mm-hmm.
See, I got a theory. White girls and mixed girls, you do not fuck with.
I don't think
you do not fucking play with, because like black girls will show you the shit that you don't want to see without you even asking. But as soon as you ask a white or mixed girl, or as soon as you bring that shit up out of them, is that shit come from left field on your ass, and. They trying to, especially, and then my cousin, she used to do the tarot reading shit. So I'm like, fuck no. Anybody that do tarot readings, they will put a curse on your ass, nigga.
That's not true. Well, so
if you fuck with them the wrong way,
curses. Okay, the only way for something to actually affect you is if you give it the control over it. So like, in order for a curse to actually be like working on you, you have to like give it that control. So like.
Believe in that shit. You just gotta believe, and I believe.
To be real, I was under a curse. To be real, like a real curse. Before you met me, Maxim, I had just broken it when you met me, and I didn't even technically break it. I actually negated it with a blessing. So I thought I thought for a second that I was a witch, but I found out I'm actually technically a high priestess. Is like what my spiritual like demeanor would be.
What's the difference?
So a witch. Can like do spells, and they're more like pagan Celtic like witches. When you think of a witch and a broomstick and them like doing poultices and stuff, it's like a different class of spirituality and like metaphysics.
Okay.
Being a witch is a lot different of types of practices, although they're all very similar and like relatable to being a high priestess. But being a high priestess basically means that you bring purification and blessings. You know, like when you think of a high priestess.
Okay, that's probably what my cousin was there. But
she probably was.
It's a thin line, though, ain't
it? They're all thin lines because it's what you choose. You know, okay. So like, but I found out about the curse through fairies, which is just ridiculous. But I had a problem most of my life where people would forget about me very easily.
Okay, like, before we go there, I gotta do my intro.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to Big Flex Overdose.
Let's take it back. Let's cut. This is all cut. Let's redo the intro.
No, it's cool. I like it because it shows people like I really be having conversations with people. interview. I'm not just getting
I
people
love
over here
it. That's
just
true.
to interview. You know, I actually I'm interested in sitting down with you and figuring out how you got to this point. Because like you said, like motherfuckers don't come across your life for no reason. You know, and
No.
I'm interested in people. I'm interested in people around me. I gave up on my. I ain't gonna say I gave up on myself. I stopped worrying about who I was a while ago and realized my happiness is within the people around me and making sure they good. You know.
Well, your happiness is also in you.
But see, that's what makes me. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying I don't care about myself, but for
Maxim,
me
this
to
is
care
a
about myself, I have to care about other people.
that that is called a necessity complex. Okay? And it's not good, Maxim. It's not a
How
bad
not?
thing,
Oh, I'm sure,
but
like,
you have to have stability in yourself fully before you can prioritize other people.
and I do. I
You
found out
know?
who I was around like 15, 18. For the most part. I found out, I found out the things about me that allow me to do the things, do negative things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out, what drives me to do positive things. So it's
Okay.
like, like I said, I can't say I figured out myself because that's a never ending process. But
Facts.
before I let anybody else sway my boat or make me do something that I'm not in control of, I know who I am, bro. Like, you really have to be an outstanding.
That's
You got
exciting.
to be a different person to get me to do something. Then, like, damn, they really got me. Cause my people used to get on my ass. They be like, "What the fuck you mean? Somebody made you do that? Can't no other person make you do that?" I'm like, he literally made me do that. And he like, "Nah, can't no other person make you do nothing. You was up there acting a fool. You did it yourself." And it took me a while to understand what they were saying until I kind of started growing up,
Mm-hmm.
But we're
I
not here
feel
to
you.
talk about me, okay?
You're
First of
important
all,
too.
somewhat. But first of
So,
all, what are you doing here, Miss Lady?
all
Well,
right.
hold on. First, what is your name?
Oh my God, I'm Cindy Sue from the Lou. I should look at the camera, huh? I'm Cindy Sue from the Lou. I'm a artist. I'm a poeta, a comedian, and an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also call myself a fortune teller. And basically, I'm going to tell you how fortunate you are presently for your past and along with where you're going to find it in your future.
Mm. And how do you do that?
I do it through a lot of different ways. So
Mm.
one of the things I'm doing right here in front of me is through chakras. So I actually developed the technique where basically I can draw your chakras, and your chakras are basically just especially spiritual portals of vortexes within your physical body.
Ethers.
Ethers, yeah, exactly. And chakras are actually something that you'll find in most cultures, that we have some form of chakras in almost all cultures, including Christianity, because they talk about heavenly bodies being located in the body, in the heart, in the throat, in the forehead. They literally talk about these things literally in Christian culture. So chakras are something that is actually shared throughout the world, and it's something super simple. And I think that if you're going to start spiritually out, if you're going to start on a spiritual journey, first place chakras. Doesn't cost you any money. And it's free to just learn what they are and where they are in your body. Because once you learn where they are in your body, you start realizing that you hold tension right in those spots. Like, you'll hold tension in your heart. And I think it's very amazing too, because like you have your neural capacity in your head, right, and everything. And I recently found out that you actually have neurotransmitters in your heart. So that means your heart actually does think the same way and transmits to your brain.
Yeah.
So it actually has its own central nervous system, like a brain, like a neurotransmitter system. So I'm like, all of that, like, science and metaphysics are just amazing.
And it's crazy how you can break that down. And I understand it from a different perspective. Like, growing up, my pops would always tell me, you have a mind, body, and soul, and those all have to be connected. And if any one of those is unbalanced, it throws everything else off, And then talking with my cousin and then my business partner / best friend, and doing research, I realized that's why this is why I started growing my dreads out, because of your crown chakras. Your crown chakras build the force field around your whole energy field to protect you. So the longer you get your hair, the longer you get your ethers, the more connected you become with the universe and with God.
Yep, and that's something I'm learning too, is like how ritualistic locks are. That they're just such like a very spiritual thing to have, and how beautiful they are, and how like actually this is probably the most natural way your hair is supposed to be.
Facts.
Like that, every time I think about it, I was like, this is exactly the way hair is supposed to be. That's why people like, I have a lady, she has a whole head and her dreads are like this thin each, but her whole head is covered like here to here. It's like got to be like 50 pounds on her head. Like, Mrs. Gorgeous hair. Gorgeous. Like, gorgeous. Like, I wouldn't even think that it was dread. I wouldn't even think it was like dreads or locks until we really think about it. You know? It's just beautiful
are they
hair.
like braided up?
They're like yours, but just a little smaller.
Okay.
And then she's probably got like 700 of them on her head.
Damn.
Yeah, like beautiful. Beautiful.
Because I this is my third time growing dread.
Okay.
And after this last one, the only person that's redid my hair, or that's even been in my head, was the lady who started my dreads for me, who started my twisties, and maybe my baby mama like once or twice. But other than that, I retwist my own hair because I don't want that energy in my shit. You know.
I feel you.
But so where did you grow up from?
So I'm actually a Vegas baby. So I'm born in 97. We lived in Vegas till I was about 2. And then we moved to California to live with my grandparents in Thousand Oaks. When we did that too, it was me and my little brother were the only people with my parents at the time. They had taken my 3 eldest siblings and they had dispersed them throughout California with other family members. So we moved from Vegas to California to live with my grandparents. And then I lived with my grandparents till I was about 6. And then my grandparents moved here to Missouri to St. Louis.
Okay.
And then my parents remained in California, and we lived there until I was 11. When I was around 10, my mom had been sick my whole life. So my mom's been physically ill my whole life, and she's also been mentally ill my whole life. And right around the age of 10 was when my mom started plateauing. So from 8 to 9, my parents started making like over $300,000 a year, and by the time I was 9, my parents were like just living it up. Like we would walk outside my house. There was 3 Porsches, always 3 fucking Porsches. I'm not fucking kidding. My dad had 2 silver, 2 black, and a purple Porsche. He also had a blue one. Yeah, like because they owned a leasing company. So my parents are hard fucking workers. Like you'll never see somebody work as hard as my parents did when I was a kid, because they literally had 5 kids and they wanted to make sure we were housed and clothed and everything. And my dad was a determined, tenacious person. So we went from making all this money, and then my dad had to start taking care of my mom because my mom just got so heavily sick, you know, and doctors weren't paying attention to her. My mom, when in the 10-year period we lived in California, my mom was seen by over 150 doctors and had a medical bill of over $250,000 owed to the state. And not a single doctor could tell what's wrong with her. Not a single doctor could tell you what's wrong with her. We didn't figure out what was wrong with my mom until we moved here and I was a freshman in high school. And that still wasn't even enough. She got diagnosed again, and then she got diagnosed again. Okay, and now we know exactly the 3 things that are giving her the most issues. But it took literally my entire life for them to figure this out.
So your mother's still alive?
My mom's still alive. I'm very thankful my mom's still alive. I never thought she'd be alive at this age. Like I'd probably been worried that she was just gonna on all the time. I had a conversation with her yesterday and been like, "You're literally waiting for you to die." Like I'm like my mom is like, like her doctor told her she keeps smoking cigarettes. She's like at a risk of having a stroke because she has so much plaque buildup around her lungs, and that she actually is getting sleep apnea from it. Yeah, because she has so much plaque buildup that like her lungs can't expand correctly.
Damn. And
she's not willing to take the steps to make it better.
I mean, most older people won't.
First off, my mom's 58. She's 58 and has the brain capacity of an 85-year-old. Her carotid artery on your left side, which is where you get 70% of your oxygen to your brain, is 100% blocked. They actually went ahead and finished blocking it out, and then our body created a new artery. There should be a scientific book written about my mom. Like, I'm legitimate. So my mom only gets about 30% of the correct oxygen into her brain. So we were living in California. My parents, my dad's trying to take care of my mom, run this business that they were both running together, and everything just fell apart. We ended up having our house foreclosed on us. My dad literally, at the end of my 5th grade year, was like, "We're buying an RV." And he literally bought an RV. My 17-year-old sister had just graduated high school. He told her that he could come with or she could stay. And he said anybody who wanted to stay, they could stay, but we're going. And he literally didn't give me and my brothers a choice. They went ahead and sent my older brother here. So as soon as he finished that year of school, they literally put him on a plane and sent him here to live with our grandparents. And then me, my little brother, and my eldest sister came here in an RV for over 3 weeks. We like drove here on like a little vacation. One of the few vacations I've ever had, and I loved it. To be real, I loved the RV life. I miss the RV life. And my other eldest sister, she stayed in California at 17 years old because she didn't want to deal with the parents. And like I said, like my mom being physically ill, mentally ill was something that has been affecting her her whole life. It's affected me my whole life, and it still affects us. So we moved here when I was 11. And I'm actually from Imperial, Missouri, which is in Jefferson County. It's about literally like less than 30 minutes from like center of St. Louis.
So let me get this timeline right.
Mm-hmm.
From 0 to 6 Vegas.
Yeah.
From 6 to 11 or 12.
0 to 2 Vegas.
Okay.
And then 2 to 11 California.
And then 11 to now Imperial, Missouri.
Yeah, well, like St. Louis for the last year.
Okay.
But basically St. Louis since I was 11.
Okay. So how was that hopping around like that? Well, yeah, you could say that because most people, they only move in like a couple neighborhoods over. Like you hop the states.
Well, we moved from like one end of Thousand Oaks to the other when we lived in California before I moved. So we did do a little bit of hopping around, but like my eldest sister, she's been to over 17 different schools. My sister Jessica's been to 14. My brother Steven's been to 7 different elementary schools. Yeah. So me and my little brother, he's only been to 3 different elementary schools and I've only been to 2. And then we got to go to the same middle school and high school like my entire life, which was something I was very thankful for because I really wanted to go to the same school my sister went to in California. But when I saw, as I stand back now and see her education compared to my education, I'm very thankful for what I got because I basically came here. And when I was in the biggest thing, so in the 3rd grade, I actually didn't know how to read. And I had a teacher basically sit me down and basically figure out that I was faking it, that I was just like kind of doing the work like intuitively is what I would call it as a child. It's like you would kind of just like, they put it in front of you and I was doing what I could. And she found out they had been pushing me through the system. So I had the same 1st and 2nd grade teacher and she basically didn't teach me anything. She just slided me to the 3rd grade.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there in the 3rd grade and I barely have the reading level of a 1st grade year old. And my teacher, Miss Legman, she like sat me down and I literally thanked this woman because she's like the reason I love to read. And she tried to get me to read her a book and I couldn't do it. And she literally fought with the school to get me an IEP and to get me into remediation. So that way I had the support I needed in order to like be a competent person. Because I legitimately at the age of 7, I thought I was absolutely stupid. Like I literally would look at like there was a kid in the class in the remediation class with me, and he was blind and he was autistic, and he would be walking around, and I would see this kid, and he was just like this beautiful person. I think about him all the time, but I would identify so much with him because I was like, I'm just like you. I like don't see things the way other people see things. Like I can't learn the same way everybody else learns. Like what's wrong with me? And this woman like literally sat me down and was like, "You're smart. We're going to get this." And then she literally made all the steps for me to do it. And my parents, the reason my older brothers had been given therapy and an IEP before me was because they had behavioral and communication issues. So because my older brother had a lack of communication and had bad attitudes in classes and like was rambunctious, they gave him an IEP. My little brother, he couldn't speak. He could not communicate. I spoke for him until he was about 7. Yeah, it's called Cindy Ease. We used to speak in like a secret language like most of our childhood. And he was given an IEP because they wanted him to speak. They just literally ignored me. So I had this teacher basically just change my life. And then when I moved schools, they continued with my IEP, and the school was a lot better school than what I was in. So they were like basically really keeping me in check the whole time. So when we moved from California to Missouri, at that time in the 5th grade, I was just got back to basically being at the beginning of being at a 4th grade level of like almost being with everybody else in my class for almost all my subjects. I think the only one I was still behind in was a little bit of math and a little bit of like grammar. But like my reading, my writing, my science, my history, all of it, they literally got it all up to like almost to be closer to my age group. When I moved here, I found out that I was 2 years ahead of everybody. So I started the 6th grade and I understood all the work automatically. I knew everything that they were teaching in the history books. Everything was just like, oh, I already learned this like within the last year. Everything. So and then the way they have the IEP system up here, it's like you constantly have support. You constantly have support. You constantly have support for kids here. So I ended up very lucky to have the teachers I had who just constantly instilled in me. So by the time I ended my 8th grade year, I had over a college level in everything. And so in my freshman year of high school, that October, they actually, I tested out of my IEP, and I'm the youngest person in my high school's history to test out of their IEP. So I tested out of it my freshman year of high school. And then when I went to go to college, I started having learning deficits really heavily. And because they took my IEP away, I was not allowed to get any compensation or any support in college for my IEP, for my learning disability.
So, because it sounded like you got caught in the No Child Left Behind Act that Hillary Clinton implemented, and that was one of the big things that hit St. Louis. Kids like me, actually, it's everything you just said. It wasn't that we were dumb or couldn't comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were focused on so much real world stuff, reality that we were living in, to where school wasn't that important. So when it came time to test and to see where we were at in those subjects, it was as if we were dumb,
Mm-hmm.
Like I had ended up going like elementary school. My mama, she ended up sending me out to this school called like Green Pine Elementary, and I think it was out in like St. Peter's or something,
Mm-hmm.
where all the white kids was. And so
my t-shirt today, actually. Once you go white, you'll still be tight.
But yeah, but so I think it was like 3rd grade. By the time 4th grade rolled around, they tried to put me in like some type of special education class.
Mm-hmm.
And my mama fought them real hard not to. Like, it wasn't that I was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
She was just like, he don't want to pay attention to y'all. Like, I was more so into hanging around my dad, dealing with older men and listening to how they talk and wanting to talk and dress and act like them.
You wanted to grow up quicker.
Yeah, to where I'm like, fuck some math. Like, what kids? My dad been telling me about history. White people fucked us over for the past 400 years, and we still bouncing back from it. Shit. But then my dad also started putting the game in me, like, you got to play both sides, and it's crazy to me, are you white?
I do not identify white.
Okay.
I actually technically, I actually don't choose to identify by the government labels is how I'm doing it. So I actually identify as a person. I prefer not to say when it comes to government forms. And then if you're going to ask me to identify myself with white in the title, I say I'm a white bitch or a dumb white girl. So that's what I choose to identify as. So like it's one of those things where I'm absolutely a white bitch. Like, I get it. You see me walk in a room, that's one of the first things you're going to think. And I am a dumb white girl. I have those white girl tendencies. I see them in others, But like, if you're going to sit there and be like, I'm going to put a label on you, well, I do not choose that white label. I do not choose to be a part of the United States.
How about this? Are your parents Caucasian?
Yeah, so my parents, so that's how so if you're going to identify me white, the only reason I identify white is because my parents have identified white and a government form asks me to.
Do your parents have a problem with that?
My parents, will continue to constrain themselves with like societal, with like the idea that they are white the whole time. Absolutely. My parents, we have like a lot of bickering when it comes to it, because like it's like one of those things where I've just never noticed color. So it's like something I literally have to remind myself about. And it's something that gets thrown in my face a lot because, like, to be real, I literally get denied support in the St. Louis community for being white. And the fact that that's happened, like that, and that it has happened like several times, like, wow, like blows my mind, because I'm just like,
but see, you gotta realize, like,
yeah, and then I realize, like, this is just the way it is, and I'm not hurt or anything,
it's the way it is in the area you in. Like, I can definitely understand why you say you don't really see colors, because you moved to a part of the city I would never, like, I was on, like, maybe, like, if you went over about 6 blocks, that's where I stayed for about like 8 months, and yeah, and that was like a year or two ago, and I said I would never, these crab in a bucket ass niggas will drag you down, and it's just from living over here. And you get over there and you thrive, like, you still be energized, you still have love in your heart, It's crazy.
It's crazy you even said that, because I was telling somebody today that how amazing it feels to be in the heart of St. Louis, because that's where I'm living. It's like I'm
crashed the fuck out on
and it's so funny is my dad, when I first moved to South City, when I first moved to St. Louis, my dad was telling everybody I lived in the ghettos, and I got really upset at him. And then now I technically live in the ghettos.
That's worse than the ghettos.
I'm also Jewish, so my dad is Jewish.
What?
Yeah, so my dad is Jewish. My last name is Silberman. I am from an adopted branch of the family, but like my dad is like Jew. That's how we grew up.
He wore a hat.
My dad used to, like when he was younger. My dad, when he married my mom, he converted. So we actually grew up heavily in California around Judaism, because that's where my dad's family lives and is. So I grew up around like doing Hanukkah, Passover, all those kind of traditions, and just being kind of around it, not really being included or involved in it too much. And then Christianity is what I was included and involved in. And so I was thrown around Christianity a lot when I was a child, because my mom was a gospel singer. And my mom is probably, like, for a lot of years, I said the only time I've ever felt God in a room was my mom singing gospel music, you know? And
she can blow her.
my mom really should have been something in the world. Drop my paper.
Okay.
So my mom is like absolutely has like an amazing singing voice, and it was one of the reasons why it took me so long to become a performer, though, was because I watched her be the performer of our family and be the star of our family, and her not make it. So it was like, how could I ever even picture myself doing any of that? So I denied myself this position that I'm putting myself in my entire life. And you're looking at somebody who, because of what happened in the 3rd grade, okay, to be real, because this lady was like, you're smart, you can do anything you want to. And by the time, and then there was this other thing I learned, that if you have a successful 5th grade year, you will most likely have a successful life. Do you know that the year of the 5th grade is like, you had a good 5th grade?
Yeah, a great 5th grade.
I had a great 5th grade. At the end of the year, even though I was moving and everybody knew I was moving, they actually voted me most likely to succeed in my 5th grade class. And at the beginning of my 5th grade class, nobody wanted to talk to me, and I was a pariah. Yeah, and like, to be real, that happened consistently until about the end of the year, because people, I had a thing happen where I got lice for 3 months. Yeah, and then I would have girls be mean to me and just like throw me around. So I was really a loner. So like, if you didn't come out of your way to like show me kindness and like to be my friend and like to show me like friendly things that I would want to do back to you, I wouldn't remove myself.
Can you see lice?
Me?
Yeah, like this one, like when you had like, could people just see it?
No, so like you get really itchy, but they would do lice checks, because like in California it gets really rampant. So they were doing lice checks, and so anytime you get sent home, when you come back, they do a lice check on you again. So I would literally come to school, and I'd be sitting in class, and then halfway through the day they're like, we're doing a lice check, and I literally would have lice. So I'd go to school and not have lice, and I'd come to school, and because of the type of hair I had, and I've always had this curly hair, and it used to be really long when we lived in California. I literally cut it all off because I was like so done with the lice. I started cutting it, and like my mom got really upset. She was like, "This is why you've been wearing a bandana." So I cut a whole patch in the back of my head, because like my mom is like not a gentle, nurturing person. It's not that she doesn't have that kind of side to her. It's just like she's different than the average mom. So like her picking at my head and like brushing it and trying to like do the medications and all this stuff was like, I did not enjoy it. And then when my dad was doing the holistic stuff. So he's like putting mayonnaise in my hair and oils and peanut butter, and he's like threatening to shave my head. And my mom is like taking a flat iron to my hair and like literally like burning the lice and like taking a comb and then going through my scalp like this. And then they're taking me to the ER to get examined at the same time. And literally I almost didn't graduate the 5th grade, because I had lice for like literally 3 months. And that was like a huge thing to my classmates. But then I ended up being one of the top people in my class, especially with like me being like a kid who had to leave the classroom to go to the special class. You know, I was always that kid who had to leave the class to go to the special class. So by the end of my 5th grade year, people just kind of saw how hardworking I was. And because of like that year, the second I was here in Missouri, I just if I saw an opportunity to do something, I was capable of getting it done, got it done. And that's what I continue to do to this day.
So was it hard transitioning from California to St. Louis? Yeah. How so?
Because of my parents' life. So that's another thing too, is my parents do not live like don't have any stability. They still don't. They have stability. They have stability because my dad's an extremely stable person. But my mom has never been able to give herself stability, and then she's never been able to truly give us stability. And then my dad has struggled just keeping that balancing act of allowing my mom to do whatever the fuck she wants and him somehow carry everything on his back. But my dad, in '89, my dad was hit by a semi and he had to bail out of the back of a truck and he had to have his whole back fused together. And he was told by the doctor that he would never walk again. My dad laughed in the doctor's face and he was driving in 4 months, walking in 6. The driving was easier than walking. My dad's that kind of determined person. So if my dad had never been in that car accident, though, he probably would have a totally different life, because my dad was probably one of the best engineers and mechanics that you would ever meet. Like, my dad is just literally the smartest guy. He has an entire electronic setup and like soldering set like in his bathroom. You like literally go in to use the toilet and there's like a bunch of electronics because there's nowhere else to put it in the house. So he's like put it in the bathroom. Like, he's like the stupidest, smartest person. Like we had a Malibu and the fan went out and he didn't want to wait for the part to come in for 3 weeks, but he had a toggle switch. So he wired the toggle switch into the inside dash and then he put the toggle switch inside a Rubbermaid container and like cut a hole in the Rubbermaid container so you could use this toggle switch. And so you turn the car on and you turn the toggle switch and the fan would come on so the car didn't overheat.
That's crazy.
So my dad is like an absolute academic. So when he became paralyzed, he basically told my mom, go to the library and get me every book you can on business. You know, my dad is a fully like trained, like self-trained entrepreneur. And like, I call my dad all the time and like, he gives me marketing tips and all this stuff. It's like, when I left my job, it was like, and realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was like, this makes perfect sense. I was like, 'cause my parents are both entrepreneurs. I've literally watched them run business successfully multiple times in my life. Like, my dad has touched gold. Both my parents have touched gold multiple times. Like, so many times where I saw them and was like, this is $1 million idea. And I'm like a little kid, like, oh my God, my parents like literally have $1 million idea. I can see it. I literally see this being millions. And it is. It literally is, because my parents sold it and didn't keep it, and then it's $1 million idea that my parents had. So Office Depot, you know, like how you can take your ink cartridges and you can like turn them in?
Yeah, and they give you a discount.
My parents started that. It's a $3 billion business. My dad sold it for $33,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like you like I'm like straight tripping all the time that my parents are the way they are, and then I'm like, they never let go of their kids though.
Exactly.
And there's so many people in their situation that wouldn't have. And my parents have 5 children. From 88 to 98, so in 10 years, they had 5 children, and we all graduated high school. And we all are kind individuals. Like, I can guarantee to you that if you were like in a store and you needed $1, we're probably and we had $1, we're one of the first people to be like, boom. You know, if you were like drop something on the side of the street and you need somebody to pick it up, we're one of the first people to pick it up and give it to you. Every single one of my family members, including both my parents and my nieces and nephews. You know, we always say your please and thank yous. We're extremely respectful. Like my family, I feel like my parents have just constantly been taken advantage of by people a lot and put their trust in the wrong places because they were seeking support from other people, and those people were just taking advantage of them constantly, you know? So like my dad would be working really hard, building his own business, and then somebody would be like, oh my God, I see you. You're doing amazing. I can pay you all this money. Come and work for me. Fuck up his entire life. And this happened over and over and over again. I've seen my parents do it and have this issue, and them also have this like ability to like bring people to them, people who are just broken, you know, like addicts and people who have constant instability, people who identify with them. Because my mom really is an addict. My mom's an alcoholic though. She won't admit it. I was arguing with her about it last night. It's like my mom was like, you know, my dad's side of the bed was really neat. My mom's full of beer cans. You know, like that was my parents' dynamic. Like my mom was like literally that person you would go into the store with her and she'd be like, yeah, you can get a candy bar. And then she'd be looking at her wallet and be like, oh, I'm short $1. Go put that back. I'm going to get my beer. You know, that was my mom. And that's not how I am. Because if I was going to promise if I was going to promise my niece and nephew something, I would give them what they want and choose something else for myself.
Right.
You know, like that's the way I was. But my mom's not like that. My mom is the kind of person that will give everything she can. But if she wants what she wants, she wants what she wants.
That's how I am, though. I ain't gonna fake it. Like, but I would never do that to like my kids, but other people, yeah. Yeah. But I would feel so bad doing it. I can't even think of an example though.
That's why like boundaries are so important though.
Exactly.
And my mom has no idea what those are.
Exactly.
And that's something that I'm teaching her all the time though, is like boundaries and learning just to just to appreciate yourself for who you are and not putting so much pressure on it. Like my mom is like, I want to accomplish all these dreams, and she wants me to write her book. And I'm like, you literally, my mom is, I've seen her write business plans. I've seen her write papers. Like my mom was an academic in high school. Like she went to college and basically didn't feel like keep going to school. So she basically pretended to go to college to go party instead, you know? And then my mom's always been really good worker. She's been working since she was 15. You get Robin at a job and you get her happy, she'll like literally run that fucking place. She will. Like my mom, servers would get jealous and my mom would get better tips than her because my mom was literally the best server. Like the reason I am so appreciative to good service staff is because I literally watched my mom kick ass my whole life being a waitress. My mom literally killed it. She remembered orders, names. She remembered people for weeks on end. Like she was just like this person. I was like, I can't even believe that you can be like this amazing person in this small type of job, you know? Because I saw my mom as being this big, huge thing. And she would bring that to that job, you know? And to see her not do that anymore, she has not done that since we moved here.
Yeah, because Missouri, it's a rough place, man. We was one of the last states to excavate slaves. You know, we one of the last states to really catch the wave and do things.
You guys didn't even want to pick a side.
But that's why I asked you, you know, was it hard moving here? You know, because
it was.
I feel like California is like a lot more liberal, as in like race doesn't really play such a factor.
Well,
but I know
it's Mexicans there.
Okay.
You know, so like I had black kids in my class and stuff, but there was probably only like 4 to 7 in my whole school, depending on where you lived in Thousand Oaks. Yeah.
And then touch it down here around niggas.
First off, right here, to be real, right now in my life is probably the most influx of like black community I've ever had, because I grew up in Jefferson County. One black kid in my whole school. All right. I wasn't even friends with him. My little brother was best friends with him.
So you was around a whole bunch of white people.
I was been around white people.
So how was it hard?
Country people.
So how was it hard?
So when we moved here in an RV. So it was me, both my brothers, and my eldest sister. And we lived in the RV for 6 months. Within the first 3 months of us living here, we actually were in a huge flood. And our whole RV got flooded. And like I almost got lost in a flood. It was really dramatic. We move into a house. And we're living there for maybe about 6 or 8 months. And then our house catches on fire and we have to move back into the RV and live out of the RV in front of our house for like the next 6 months while the house gets redone.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then...
who paid for that? Who paid for your house to get redone? Your dad?
The renters. The renters insurance.
Oh.
My dad always has the insurance.
He's smart. He really is.
To be real, I'm like avoiding giving my dad my new address because he wants to give me renters insurance. He's also threatening to move in. I'm like, I'm not going to give you my address to get me insurance if you're going to threaten to move the fuck in. Like, no. But yeah, so it was really hard to move here because it was just like we couldn't catch a break. And that's how it's been most of my life. Like even right now, Mex, I'm like, as much as like good things are happening, I'm not catching a break. None of this is a break. You know, I'm constantly putting the work in and putting the effort in. And anytime I have free time, if I'm not doing something, like even productively thinking, you know, I get stressed, and like I have to remind myself that breaks, you give yourself the break. All right. Like you give yourself that. Life doesn't just happen. Right. You happen to life. Like you happen to life. So like life kept happening to us, but like my parents were just like flailing the whole time, and I could see it. But I was a kid. I was there to just be a dependent and to support them. And that's what I always was. Like my parents will tell you I was the easiest kid to raise. Like, oh, you barely even noticed Cindy. I'm like, yep, that was me, the kid you barely noticed. And that's like something that has been most of my life, is like you either absolutely notice me or you just absolutely don't.
Yeah. Now I could say lately, when you walk into a room, everybody and it's not even like who is the white girls, like who is that spirit that just walked in.
That's exactly what I'm getting nowadays. I had somebody tell me the other day though that they actually couldn't tell I was in a room, but I've been working on like trying to cloak my spiritual energy. So it's like I've been trying to like just be like very quiet in a space, because I just don't really want to be out in public right now, because I'm dealing with so much personally. You know, so it's one of those things where it's like I'm trying to give myself the break right now.
Was it hard, like integrating with the kids here or Imperial?
So it was the same. I had the same issues I had in California, which was kids just being mean to me, girls getting jealous, and people just not wanting to be my friends. So none of that changed when I moved here, except that I did find friends. And even when I lived in California, like I still talked to one of the girls who was one of my best friends from elementary school. But my first best friend, her name was Kelly. We were best friends all through kindergarten, and halfway through the first grade, she got deported. She would live next door to us, so I was literally used to spend the night at her house and stuff. And she got deported. It was something I could literally cry about it, thinking about the fact that I'm just never going to see this girl again. And she meant so much to me because she's literally like what I would call like my first friend, like the first girl to show me kindness and to show me like what being a friend was, and like to be brought into a family and to be shown like respect as an outsider and to be brought into family traditions and all that kind of stuff. It's like her and her family and her little siblings she had, they all naturally really did that and we literally lived right next door to each other. And her dad lost his green card and didn't report it to his boss, and his boss found out and reported him. That's why he got deported. And they had to go back to Mexico City to be farmers.
That's crazy.
So, and then after that, I became friends with a girl named Jessica, and me and her still talk. It's the wrong color. Me and her still talk. She has a daughter, and I went and visited her last time I went to California. And me and her were friends all throughout the second and third grade until I moved into a different school. When I moved into a different school, I had a lot of problems. Like I would become friends with somebody, really good friends with them. I would literally have really good friends, and then I would become friends with somebody who would literally take my friends from me. And that was a consistent theme most of my life. Is like I'll build really nice. I'll be really good to somebody, and you'll come around and you'll just walk away with them, and I'll just be standing there like, you weren't ever my friend, because if somebody could just show up and take you away, you were never my friend.
Right.
I knew that at a very young age. Like I even think it now, because like I have a friend of mine. I have somebody who I was like their friend first, and then they're now like really good friends with my other friend, and I find myself just being like, why can't I be closer to that person right now? But it's like, it's not time for that. If they're my friend, they'll come back. Like, boom. I just gotta wait,
They never really leave in the first.
They never left. That's what I'm saying. Like they never actually left. It's like they're not with that person for any reason. I don't have any reason to be jealous or be upset that they took them from me, because they'll come back. Because I'm, it's one of those things where it's like I tried to not get butthurt over it. So when I moved here, I was really good friends with a girl. She was like my first Missouri friend. I even tried to get in contact with her recently because I was thinking about her so heavily. And she stopped being my friend after her mom said that she would like to trade us.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, well, her mom was like, "Oh, you do dishes," and because my parents basically trained me to be a housewife, so like I like cook, I clean, like I'm quiet, I'm like a people pleaser, and I'll tell you when I don't want to do something. Like, and people like those traits, and parents like those traits, so they don't have to train their kid to be like that. And so she really, I think that she took it some type of way, but me and her ended up being friends again throughout high school, and we were really good friends at the end of high school, and then we lost touch when I started college. So it's like I don't have any negative feelings towards her or anything, but then I think back, it's just like all those like little childish games of like me and her could have been friends all through middle school and high school, and now we're not. I wonder why. But then I have my friend Annie. We've been friends since we were 12, and all through middle school, this bitch would have traded me for anybody. All through middle school and high school, she would have traded me for anybody. Like, people would be like, Annie and Cindy Sue are best friends. And then Annie would literally be talking shit, like real mean shit on me. And then she'd be like, you talking shit. And I'd be like, I'm telling the truth. Because that's who I am. I'm never talking shit. If you're being a cunt, I will tell you you're being a cunt. And my friends did not like that about me for a lot of years. And now I'm 26. We've been friends for 14 years. And like a year and a half ago, she reached out to me and told me that because of me and our friendship, she's a better person for it. And I'm like, stuff like that. It's like, that's why people are in your lives and people come and go, because there are plenty of times where like me and her aren't talking right now. And she, most recently, she's married to my little brother's best friend. And when she saw my little brother last, she was like, I think I'm going to start being Cindy's friend again. But she had texted me 2 days before that and told me how much she was proud of me and loved me.
Yeah.
People don't make sense. So it's like, I shouldn't even.
Females don't make sense. Shoot.
Dude, I really try to just keep to myself in that regard, because I just don't want to, I don't want to be negatively affecting anybody, and I don't want anybody to negatively affect me. So I would continuously just try to be a loner when I was in middle school here in Missouri. I would constantly just be alone. Like, I remember I used to hide, but I used to sit, not hide, but I used to sit, like, there was like the stage in the gymnasium, there was like a stage, and then there was like a back room with like vending machines, and then there was like the big gymnasium. I used to hide right behind the vending machines. Like, I'd sit there and like do homework and like eat a snack and like do all that kind of shit and like hide in like these little tiny spaces. I was always a nursing kid. I was always sick in the nurse's office. So like everybody always knew me for like having a headache or having a stomach ache or like really just not being feeling very well. I would be constantly in the nurse's offices. And I was also known as a goody two shoes. So like when I was in high school once, I was in the library and I was like sitting in the library really quiet and I was like reading a book, and right next to me, three of my best friends like were all sitting there. And one of them was like, "Where's Cindy?" And I'm still friends with this girl who's like, "Where's Cindy?" I'm still friends with her to this day. I literally talked to her today. The other girl who was with her, these other two girls, one of them said nothing this whole time. The other girl, she goes, "Do we really need her? Or do we need, does it matter?" And she was like, "What?" And she was like, "I'm really tired of her goody two-shoes act." And I remember sitting there being like, I'm literally right here. I was like, and it's not an act. I am a goody two-shoes. And that's not entirely true, too, that I'm just a goody two-shoes. I'm also like a sneaky little bitch. Like, I'll do something wrong and I'll tell you about it. Like, you're acting like I'm a goody two-shoes, but that's not true because I got drunk with you last weekend. Like, we're 14. Like, come on. So it was one of those things where people will assume I'm on a pedestal. And this has been something invoked my whole life. You know, it's like I'm on my own lane.
Yeah, and you can definitely feel those vibes from you.
Yeah, and realizing that was something that really heavily hit me. And one of the reasons why I have decided to be a performer and to just full-fledged, like, boom, this is what we're doing, is when I realized that I have this large personality, I'm a hard worker, I'm determined, I'm extremely competent, I'm extremely smart, I'm very intelligent, and I think everybody's just as intelligent as me. I do not think that there's never a smartest person in the room. It could be anybody at any moment. You could say something way smarter than me and teach me something at any fucking moment. Okay, so like right now, I could be the smartest person in the room. You're probably thinking that, but that's not actually true because you can be smarter than me like that.
And then we got the baby in the back.
And babies are the smartest. Like, babies are master healers. That's what I say. So like, if a baby is born, you probably need immense healing. And that's what I think about, like my parents, like my dad being the way he is, and like my mom being the way she is. I just can't help but like think like they needed so much healing. That's why they had 5 children, you know? And we all, like, the second we were born, we were helpers. Like even my sister Michelle, who's our eldest, who has just been through absolute bullshit. You know, like I was telling my mom about it. I was like, our entire life, you were sweeping all Michelle's problems underneath the rug. How is she supposed to identify them if you never would? You were just decided to shove them underneath the rug, never deal with them. She went through all this trauma. You went through all this trauma around her. We went through all this trauma. I went through trauma. It wasn't even my trauma. This trauma is something that not everybody goes through trauma, but everybody's affected by it.
Thanks.
You know, so it's like I'm literally watching everybody be in all these traumatic situations and being pulled into it, and it's overwhelming. I couldn't even imagine being my sister and being in her place and having to deal with that. You know, and I know people.
She's the oldest too, so it's
exactly.
Like they can't run to nobody.
So, and there's a learning curve to all of this too. There really is like a really important learning curve that people have to realize when it comes to just being human.
So how is the relationship between you and your mama?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm the favorite of my family. Everybody automatically says that too. Like every single member of my family is like, Cindy is the favorite. She has the best relationship. Like if you're going to ask like, who is the best relationship in the overall family with each other, it's Cindy. You know, me and my little brother are best friends. He literally tells people that his sister is his best friend. I tell him he's not allowed to do that because I'm not his best friend. Okay, it's okay to be like, that's my best friend. She's my awesome sister. No, it's not. It's not okay. It's never okay. I tell them all the time. I'm like, it's weird that you tell people I'm your best friend.
No, it's not.
It is. I'm like, get a girlfriend.
Everything. And people, like younger people.
My little brother's a year and a half younger than me.
Did you just hear a whistle?
Hmm?
Did you just hear a whistle? Okay. I thought, maybe, yeah, okay. Cause weird shit happened the other day. I'm pulling back up with my daughter, and this drunk ass nigga sitting outside my motherfucking, like, in the front, like on the sidewalk, but right in front of my house, ain't gonna try to flag me down. Like, could you take me to Walgreens?
What?
Boy, he lucky. But
did you take him?
Come on now. I just heard that shit again. We may have to. Hold on, yeah.
Go check on the child.
Okay, never mind. That was on the show. That was on her show.
I assumed it was her show because that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, after I heard like floorboard talk, I was like, okay, because the dog was just barking. Well, okay, we back on track.
Okay.
And we ain't gonna edit.
My little brother though is actually he's born in '98, so he's a year and a half. We're less than 18 months apart. Yeah. And to be real, I was called his mom most of my life. Like I'm serious. Like people, when we were really young, even though he was always like shorter than me, like he was always at my shoulder, people would think we were twins, even though we weren't, and we had different color eyes and shit. Like my little brother.
I want to see your brother.
I'll show you a picture, and now he's 6'1", by the way. He's like literally ginormous. He's got long curly hair like me. And he's like really big and like brawny. He's literally the tallest kid in our family. And he's a strong, and he's such a good, my little brother is like, I'm so proud of him all the time. All the time. He's such a good kid. I think it all the time. And he literally thanks me for it. I can't take credit for it. I'm just like, you're lucky because I have no idea how I ended up being such a good kid. I think it all the time. I was like, you can't give me any credit. Nobody can ever take credit for you except for you. Like, you take credit for yourself, Daniel. That's what I tell him, you know?
So what is your relationship like with your dad?
It's amazing. Me and my dad have a really good relationship, although we argue and bicker a lot. I tend to bicker a lot with people because, like, me and my dad were having a conversation about my sister. And, like, one of my sisters is a recovering addict, and she's got 2 children. And it's something that I want to make sure that I'm a part of their life. And if anything happens, like, she needs a break, I'm here. I'm the person that will take the children. Like, that's what I've been determined about. I've said that to her. I've said that to my parents. I've said that to all my siblings. Like, we can't split these kids up. I don't think that's what's best because it wasn't what was best for my siblings when we were kids. Like, when we moved from Vegas to California, like, I don't know how, but I remember it. And I remember nobody wanting to take me because I was literally like a 2-year-old child who didn't know how to potty, wasn't even potty trained. And then my little brother, he was like an infant. You know, so like it was a lot different. It was a lot different of dynamics. And me and him ended up sticking together because like it was always me and Cindy and Daniel. So something I'm really thankful for is the fact that like my little brother has always been there for me. And he is like, he literally constantly shows up. And me and my dad have struggled a lot in a relationship, and my little brother's helped so much. My dad is low-key sexist. He won't admit it, but like I had to get my license. I had to get my license in order for him to even try to buy me a car. And then he waited another 6 months. He bought my brothers, both of them cars before they had licenses, before they even had the permits. And I'll point that out to him. He'll still be like, no.
Is that sexist or more so protective? Because most men like for women to depend on them.
No, he thought I was going to be like my sisters. My sisters both didn't get their licenses. My sister and me, Michelle, got her license a month before me. She was 25. I was 17. I had to go to driving school. Like, I had to prove to my dad that I was determined enough to give it to him, for him to give it to me, basically. And that's how it is all the time. Like, my dad, like, I walked in my parents' house, and my dad looked at me. He's like, "You suck any dick recently?" I was like, this is why I'm never gonna get married. I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to marry somebody when my father says stuff like that? Like, my father is literally asking me if I suck dick. You know how fucking rude that is? I was like, and what if there was another person here? I was like, do you think that they'd find it funny? They probably would. And then I'd have to be mean to them for you fucking saying that shit and them finding it funny. Like, I'm literally, the reason I'm never getting married is you right here. I literally said that to my dad because that is true. I was like, you being like that, you don't ever want a man to treat me like that. Ever. You don't ever want a man to sit there and say that to your daughter. Why the fuck would you say that? And I'll say that to my dad. And there aren't daughters who will do that. And my dad will sit there and take it and have an actual conversation with me about it and grow from it. You know, and same thing with my mom. It's like me and my mom, it's like, I will tell her, like, I'll literally call my mom an alcoholic and I'll tell her that she's trying to kill herself and all this stuff. And I'll identify her problems for her. And I'll tell her, you know, I'm not going to do anything for you, though. I can't do anything if you're not willing to do something. So, and the same thing goes with my parents, and same thing goes with all my siblings. Like my sister who's recovering, all I do is encourage her. Like I texted her the other day, like she did this thing where she was short one egg for a cake. So like my niece didn't get a cake on her birthday because my sister was short one egg and didn't want to make a cake without one egg. She had the other 2 eggs. So it needs 3 eggs. So she had the other 2 eggs. She was just missing 1 egg. So she chose not to make it. And then she texted me and asked me if I would make it when I got here and to pick up eggs, but I had a 45-minute drive. Does that make any sense? No. It sounds like you're not solving your problem. That's not my problem.
Somebody was trying to be lazy.
Facts. Helpless.
Okay,
is what I call it.
I got an interesting question. Coming from a race other than black, what do you see is the biggest thing that's keeping black people from uniting? And that's from like an outside perspective looking in.
I couldn't really tell you. So I think that it's not I don't think it's a black community issue. I think it's a humanity issue. That you got
serious.
Yeah, like dude, for real. No, you're gonna ask me this question because I feel like black people communicate way better than white people do.
For real?
But yeah, first off, the amount of shame white people constantly give each other, constantly. Like you guys don't have that here in the black community. You guys do it, but like not on the same type of level. You know, at the very least, like when you guys throw shame and stuff around, you guys like picker it away. You know, does that make sense? So it's like it's not like you put in a corner and put a blanket on it. It's like, okay, well, we're shameful about this, but like we're gonna handle that. Okay. You know, white people be like, oh, we're really ashamed about this. Let me like cover it up and put a plant in front of it and make it look so appealing. Like, come on the fuck on. Okay. So I'm like, and so like you're asking me this question, but I'm like, it's white people are not connecting just as much as black people. If anything, human beings aren't connecting correctly. You know, and like I said, like I really don't notice color and stuff like that because it's just, I find it annoying. Like when somebody points out that I'm white, I'm just like, somebody called me Caucasian. I was like, thanks for using that. I'm like, I've never, like when you said it earlier, I was like, oh my gosh, it was the second time I've heard it in like a month. Because like because like a man, he was actually my roommate, but he looked at me, he goes, oh, he's like, you're a Caucasian? A caucus? I was like,
caucus nothing. It's a funny word to say.
I was like, I had no idea what to even think. And then I had a woman recently who keeps trying to call me biracial. So she's 3 separate occasions where she's literally been, Slippy Sue biracial, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I'm not biracial. You can't say that. She's like, you definitely got a drop. And I'm like, I don't care. And she tried to make this, she was like, why couldn't you? She's like, if a man who's born a man decided he wanted to be a woman and call himself a woman,
that's not the same thing.
I said, that's not the same thing. That's a spirituality thing. And she was like,
sexuality.
Really? No, spirituality.
I think we ain't gonna debate.
No, it's a spiritual thing. Okay? Because it is a spiritual thing. And then sexuality is like, spirituality requires like spirituality. Does that make sense? For you to understand yourself sexually, you have to understand yourself spiritually. Because gender is actually something that that we constructed, you know?
I get what you're saying.
Because like penises and vaginas are the same thing, man. That's why we like literally your penis is like literally an outie.
Yeah.
And I'm an innie. Like that's the difference.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to see if I agree with it.
And part
of me does agree with it, but at the same time, I'm like, that's degenerating humans' ideology for the past like thousands of years. But that's trying to really take away like the foundation of human.
That's not. First off,
because the Bible breaks down like it's men and women, and you know it separates that by like sex, by
because
biology.
we want. First off, the Bible. If anything, if I'm gonna go back, and you're gonna tell me back to the foundation of humanity. All right, you know what I think? Community, nomadism, and agriculture and hunting.
And through those it had gender roles.
No, but you're talking about Christianity ideas. All right, I'm talking about before Christianity.
But I'm
before
saying
Christ,
even before that, like even before Christianity and Christ, things were broken down into like sex. So like if you had breasts and could reproduce, they had you stay at the crib while the things.
But also it depends on culture. But like that's one of the things. It's like we have like this separation when it comes to it, and I don't think we actually need to have that because like if you want to identify that way, you can.
I mean,
it's up to you, you know. So like having the subconscious being like there's
how
gender.
Do you hold people accountable?
How are you gonna hold people accountable?
Yeah.
For being a woman, for being a man. Yeah. You're gonna hold me accountable.
Yeah.
I call myself a man. Okay.
But see, it's like okay, I'm not saying accountable for like that sex. I'm saying accountable for the actions, right? So like, if so like I think that if you don't hold people accountable in saying you're a man, you're a woman, that opens the door for creep men to do weird shit to women and just play like the sex card and get away with it, or vice versa.
That's exactly, but that is a security boundary and communication issue, and that's also something that like that's outside worries that you
have to worry about.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
First off,
how do you keep people safe if you don't worry about these things?
By self-development.
But see, that's not always available for people.
First off,
so then we need another layer. It's not.
Can always develop yourself. Absolutely. You can be in a prison cell somewhere and self-developing.
Think about if that teacher hadn't helped you in 3rd grade and they kept pushing you through the system. They kept pushing you through the system until you were old enough to like get the fuck out the system. Do you think you would have been able to keep self-evaluating and keep self-elevated?
I would have done it eventually. It would have happened in the same way.
At what cost and at whose expense?
First off, the way things unfold in reality and existence is just the way it is. If we keep questioning it and trying to determine what's going to happen to us in the future, we're going to just end up running into roadblocks over and over again. You have to live here presently at this moment. And that's why gender ideals aren't even a big deal. It's a very overly sensitive topic right now. But people heavily think like, and I identify she they. It's like I really don't like identifying as a woman. I'll identify as a woman because I'm very proud of the strong lineage of women I come from.
Okay, let me make this point then. Let's think about 100 years from now, right? And it's books, it's art, it's all type of things that depict what happened in this present moment. If we don't have gender roles and gender identifications, how can we get an accurate depiction of like what actually happened? So like if they write in it had did this and then that happened, it'd be like, well, was it a man or was it like, how can you tell what type of energy this person was able to, like saying something was male or female distincts a lot and is able to help people get a clear picture of things.
I understand that, but I think that everything is a perspective. So no matter what,
not everything is though.
No, everything's perspective. Okay,
it's truths and facts out here.
First off, facts can get changed and truths can get broken. I don't want to be like this. Everything is malleable and manipulative and manipulatable or
malleable.
Malleable, yeah.
Is that
but like that is like I really think I'm very much in the Matrix model though. Especially since so much stuff, like literally I've been manifesting so much stuff and stuff just literally drops in my lap. You know, it's like, it blows my mind sometimes on how alignment works. Like when I went to go get out of my car earlier, my car door was locked. And usually before I open my car door, I unlock it. And when I went to go pull on it, it wouldn't let me out. And as I went to go pull on it, a car drove by really fast right next to my car. So if I had opened that door, I would have hit the car. You know?
The car would hit you.
The car would hit me, you know?
And that's a fact.
That's a fact, you know? There's like, but it's not a fact because it didn't happen.
Touche.
Okay?
Touche. Hello.
Go check on your baby.
This girl. She got no sauna in there, boy. It got hot in that room with that heat on, ain't it, mama? Say hi, Cindy Sue.
Hi, Nyla. I said it right?
Nyla, yeah.
Nyla, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she got hot in that room. All right, let's continue this conversation with Cindy Sue, okay?
She got this. She's like, I'm here for it. She came out just for me.
You got any questions for Miss Cindy Sue?
She does. Where the fuck did you come from?
Okay, so push it along.
Mm-hmm.
What college did you go to?
I went to Jefferson College in Hillsborough.
Okay.
I have an associate's degree from there. So I graduated in 2015 from high school, and I immediately was like, I'm going to college. And I chose to go to Jefferson College in Hillsborough and to get my associate's degree really quick because I was actually worried my mom was going to die before she could see me graduate. And I wanted my mom to see a college graduate. So it was one of the biggest determining factors was like, I just wanted to get through school and to have a ceremony to prove that I could do that and give that to her because none of her other kids, none of my 3 siblings above me went to college. And it was something that I always knew I was going to be the only kid that was going to be capable of getting that done first, if that made sense. Yeah. Like I always knew that I was going to go to college because I loved school. That was something that I've always had since I was really young too, since like preschool, is that school had always been like a privilege and a break to me. Like getting to go to school and like to have it, to sit in a classroom with a teacher and to like be a part of like a team and a group and a classroom was something I always just loved and thrived in. Even if I was like the little loner I was always that kid who would raise their hand, or if there was a class activity, or if like there was something a kid was doing and I want like they could show me how to do it. I was always like that person who was just ready to go. And so
you say you got your associates in?
And I have associates arts.
So did you have any plans on like after you graduated, after you got your associates?
So when I graduated in 2017, I had been going to school. So like I had been going to school the whole time. The only time I ever took a break was the summer before I started college. And then I took every winter and summer course after that. I was in school until the summer of 2017. And then when I left, I transferred to University of Central Missouri, and I lived basically like all of 2018 in Warrensburg, Missouri, in Kansas City. That was like the 1 year where I basically was like lived by myself. I had my own apartment. I had my own first apartment. I was going to school. I honestly don't care about having like an apartment. I really want an RV, to be real. But I really enjoyed living alone. I really enjoyed like having like my own space. I would like do things. I would reward myself by doing like naked days and stuff like that. I got that from that Matthew McConaughey movie. You know, so like you literally are naked one day a week. I'm like, yeah.
Shit, that's every day I'm around this motherfucker by myself.
If you're by yourself, it's different.
I believe like the Africans, like, you know, your nuts drop when you walk around with no underwear.
That's hilarious. I've never heard that. Well, my friend Alexis, who I met in Warrensburg. So when I lived in Warrensburg, I met my tattoo artist and then my first Black friend, to be real.
For real?
Yeah. So this was probably my introduction, is what I've been calling her, to the Black community, because she really did. She really does all the time. And one of the biggest things, and what I said about shame, is the fact that at the time when I met her, she had a 13-year-old son, and he literally is like one of my nephews. He turns 18 this year. I'm excited. I'm hoping to go out there and see him for his birthday, actually. But he was 13, but she would literally like walk around naked around him. You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, and she was like, this is the way it is in a lot of families, is the fact that like they have, and to be real, she's not the only person, like her mom, and like they're just very comfortable, and it's something that I've noticed in a few other families, in a few other Black families.
Not my family. Because you gotta understand, like through slavery, there's a lot of either forced incest or just like continue incest. So a lot of families been like ridding that shit out of the family these past couple decades. Like that's been some conversations. Like that's why most people say, like, I don't know why you killing your own people because y'all cousins. Like most of these niggas are really cousins.
Oh my God,
like
stop.
extensions of each other's, and it's crazy. It is crazy. So is it harder to get around is it no, let me say it like this. Which race is it most easier for you to get along with?
There isn't. I get along with people.
Okay.
Yeah, this is weird because I had a very similar conversation yesterday where I was asked why are you so attracted to the Black community?
Because the outside perspective looking in is something that I don't think people value enough. So
I don't think people realize what's happening here though, is like, so like what I broke it down to was like, it's not that I'm not attracted to white people and it's not that I'm overly attracted to Black people. Specifically your type of energy, you know, from like your community and everything has never been something that's been around in my life previously. So I am currently attracted to it because I'm experiencing it for the first time.
And what type of energy is that?
I don't think it's any different than any other type of energy. You know, I think that I don't even know how to really describe it because like I just keep finding myself really falling in love with the people around me, and then to be brought into a situation like this where you're asking me to identify the like with the differences between Black and white, and I'm just like I don't know how to explain it when I could tell you the differences between the people, like the individual, and even when I describe people like there's somebody was like when I showed them a picture of Alexis, they were like, oh, she's Black. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you never described her that way. Why would I? Why would I ever put their skin tone in? Like it didn't even occur to me.
It's the gender thing. It helps people categorize and understand things better.
But like,
you know, and there's something to say to that. It's like you can't just discard these categories that we.
I'm not saying discard them. I think we can evolve them.
But to say is no such thing or that is no difference is discarding them. You know, it's like it is different color skinned people and people are proud of that. You know?
Absolutely. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that one of the biggest things is that I'm really attracted to diversity is what I'm having here. Okay. So it's like when you're talking about it and like what I like, I was like, I like how you guys are diverse. You guys are cultural. You guys are evoking, you're loud, you're proud about it. Yeah, and you'll take a negative and you'll pop it onto a positive like that. Like that's the one thing white people don't ever do. They don't ever, boom, it's a positive. Don't ever take it away. Okay? That's something the Black community will, boom, right there. We're proud of this shit. Don't ever try to tell us differently. And I love that about people because that's something I do. It's like I call myself the bitch of all time because you know what? I know I'm going to be a bitch. I'll go ahead and call myself that first for a reason. And like, that's just like I just find myself being attracted to diversity, if anything, of like the differences, you know, and like the commonalities and the similarities and the connections and the relationships you can build with people.
I don't think we got to like an answer of the question though. Like, what was your expectations? Well, you did. You said it was just to see your mama have a kid or see a kid graduate.
Yeah.
So like professionally, what were you trying to do?
I was trying to become a psychiatrist actually. So when I went to school, I actually was going to be an art teacher was when I signed up for school. And then within my first semester, I had decided to change and I was going to actually become an artist. And then I got locked in an elevator.
I remember you telling me about that.
I got locked in an elevator and the 45-minute experience in the art building in the elevator, I don't know how exactly because I just sat there and like was playing on my phone the whole time or doodling a drawing. But the whole time, like the full 40 minutes where I was stuck in this elevator, I remember thinking the whole time, I was like, yeah, I'm not an artist. I'm trapped in this art building elevator. I'm not an artist. Like, I'm not. And then to sit here now and be like, yeah, I was always an artist, but I wasn't in my correct space to be an artist.
What was making you think you were an artist?
Getting trapped in the elevator.
How though?
I don't know. I don't know. I really just can't. I can't explain it exactly, but it was something I had been feeling a lot because like I had been having people really encourage me to basically try more stuff and try more techniques and to like really just try to thrive in the idea of this. And so I started looking at art schools and like doing this and that, and I just kept falling out of place with it. And then when the elevator thing happened, it was like, okay, now I'm stuck in place. And this is not where I want to be. I don't want to be in this art building. I don't want to sit here and draw people every single day. It was something that I can envision myself doing, but like, is that really what I want to do? And I can't get myself to evoke on the paper the way other artists I see do it. And this is just not my art form. And I never thought I was going to find my art form. Never thought. When I found poetry, and then to go back and look at my journals from previous years before I found poetry, and to literally find poems that I had been writing to myself that I had no idea. Poems for years. And then when I was 15, I wrote a poem on the school bus. When I was 17, I actually turned it in to basically be published in a book, and it was accepted, and I was supposed to have it published in a book when I was 17. I never turned it in for the final draft, so it never got published. Yeah, so it was like one of those things where it was like this art form had always been carrying around with me, and I just never allowed it to happen. And my dad said that he thinks my rhyming actually comes from his old friend, because he had an old friend when we lived in California. He said that all he did was rhyme. Like, so like I'll rhyme around my dad, and my dad will be like, oh, it's so-and-so. I can't remember this guy's name. I don't remember this guy at all. But I was like, there's no way that I took this guy's rhyming ability as a child, but okay, Dad. But I wanted to be I decided not to be an artist. And then I said, but I had been continuously told multiple times in my life that I'm a great listener. I'm a good advice giver, and that I'm extremely calming presence. You really want to talk, huh?
Man, she just want to take over the interview. Okay, we gonna get you back on her, Miss Cindy. Before we go though, I want you to break down the chakras you made.
So these are your chakras. I actually have to finish them a little bit, and I'm gonna write you a poem before I leave today. But I essentially drew your chakras, and your chakras are basically like the heavenly bodies that are inside in your body. So you have your crown chakra. This sits at the top of your head. Your third eye right here on your forehead. You have your throat. This is located in your thyroid. Your heart, located in your heart. Your solar plexus, located in your gastral system. Your sacral, which is located in your reproductive cycle. And then your root is at the bottom of your coccyx, or the bottom of your pelvis. So
what does each one of them say about me?
To be real, they're actually saying a lot. Yeah, so you have a lot of energy flowing from your grounding, and you have a lot of energy coming from your crown. And I'm going to finish doing this real quick. But here's the thing with your chakras mixum, which I think is really interesting. So your third eye is open and is definitely consistently giving your throat chakra what it needs in order to speak. Your heart is open, and it's actually naturally healing the people around you, and it's also healing yourself. And I also think that it needs an extra kick. I think there's some self-love you can be giving yourself that'll help filter your emotions better. Huh? Stop. That's not true. Self-love, okay? So maybe you need a pocket pussy. Yeah, thank you.
Girl, you don't know me. Look, girl, stop playing. You up here messing up the interview.
She's like, "What? Would you want me to say that, Daddy? You want me to say penis? You want me to say pussy?" Look at her. Okay. Your solar plexus is really wide and it's very bright. So it means you're very well motivated to be here. And your sacral is really indulged right now, which means that you're very creatively expressing yourself. And then I get to your root, and your root actually is not pulling as much energy as it would like to. So, and that's where, so you see how solid your crown is, and then you see how it's like your root doesn't have like the same type of like vortex happening. I know it's cut off a little bit, but so essentially, are you pooping?
That's what I was thinking for a second.
She growls so much, it's funny. Okay. But your rooting being like this actually tells me that there's a lack of stability somewhere. it's not that you're actually lacking stability or security in any sort of aspect, but it's like you need to get yourself oriented in a nice fashion, because it's like a gyroscope. So when you think of like a gyroscope, it's kind of like the world, you know, it's something moving in all parameters all at once at the same time. So when you have something like this, where it looks like something's going like this, it means you're putting energy where it's not supposed to go. So it keeps just influxing because it wants to be drawn up and down and then have that perfect circulation of flow like it does. But because it's circumvented like this, it can't go anywhere. And the same thing's happening at your crown chakra, which is why it's so like dark and it's not vortexing. Because like it is vortexing, it just you can't see it vortexing because of that energy that's surrounding it. So you need to learn where to put that security. You need to learn where to put that security in order to have that correct flow in your stability. All right. And the same thing when it comes to your crown chakra. The reason it's probably like that is because your root chakra is like that. So it's probably trying to condense energy because you're holding back energy down here. So it's like, and I think that it has a lot to do with what I was saying about the self-love that you need, because I think that your heart chakra needs to be pulling more, because your heart chakra, I don't know if you noticed this, it's actually misshapen. It's not a perfect circle. I don't know if you had noticed that. So it's actually misshapen. And this shape in particular tells me that actually you're being pulled in different directions, like spiritually, when it comes to your emotional flow.
Yeah, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I
and
really
it's
am.
not a bad thing. It just basically means that you need to learn how to give yourself more roundedness, which means that that doesn't mean the fact that these people can't pull from you, but they need to not be able to pull from you spiritually. All right. Because this is going to count you off balance and make you so you can't see what you need to see.
That's good. You just explained a lot for me, or help me explain a lot to myself actually, because I've been having questions about the people around me and their intentions and my intentions with them, you know, and I've blamed myself real quick, like I'm doing something wrong or like I'm not doing enough, but you just helped me realize some stuff. That's crazy.
True.
That's crazy.
You would naturally, to be real next time, after just seeing you and the way you are, you will naturally do what you can for people pretty easily. So if somebody's trying to get more from you, it's probably just because they're not getting enough from themselves. All right, you have to remember that you have to hold people to that standard. And that's why I said that when you were like talking about how you like to make sure other people are okay, and then that helps you make sure you're okay. If you're going to do that, that's totally fine, but you need to make sure you're okay so that way you can establish that those people are okay. I think it's really important.
That's
right?
deep. That's real deep. That's deep. I can't wait to read your letter.
I'm gonna wait until in, because it takes me a few minutes to write it, and then but it's like I do a higher self. I guess I can write it real quick. It just might take me a few minutes.
It's cool. Well, let's end this interview real quick, because I would definitely want to bring you back on more for a part 2, because you different. You got a free spirit. We hopped around a lot. Like,
first off, and we have there's so many cute moments in this video because I'm so animated.
Yeah,
I think are gonna be really funny for real. I can't wait till you have to send me.
And I'm not editing none of it. I promise you. I'm throwing the intro on the beginning of it, and and I'm just posting it because I'm not trying to be perfect with this. I'm trying to get the experience out and let people see, like, this is how we live in here in St. Louis. We not perfect. We not trying to be perfect. We love interacting with each other. So go ahead and sing your tone. Okay, you didn't want to say nothing when the microphone go to your mouth, but so thank you, Cindy Sue. Cindy Sue from the Loop.
Cindy Sue from the Loop.
Thank you for joining Big Flex Overdose.
You're welcome.
We got a big hug for you. Thank you.
Look at that little baby. Think she'll let me hold her again?
Hell yeah.
Yeah? You like this? She does like me. Yeah. I'm like Auntie Cindy. Yeah? Almost gave me a high five. You want a color? Don't poke your eye out. Please don't poke your eye out. No.
Because she showed us how to experiment.